In front of you, I have 3 of the same IFAK built out in slightly different ways. And today we're going to be talking about some of the considerations that you should take into account while building out your personal kit. Jumping right into it, RTS Tactical sent me like 7 of these empty bags, and it's really nice to see the different concepts in the exact same format. But this will work with any bag you decide to use as long as it has enough storage inside of it or outside of it, depending on what you're going to do. I'm not going to keep this suspenseful. The difference between these 3 packs, or how I have them loaded out, is this one is very much top of the line. Everything's brand new, and I have it set up as I would carry it in a glove box, in a backpack, somewhere where I am not worried about the elements. The reason for that should be pretty obvious. We're gonna go through it and we'll talk about it. This one is set up in a similar premium fashion with a couple shortcuts made, and this one is made more for someone that's going to be carrying it on a plate carrier or externally, somewhere where it is going to get battered and we want to protect the contents. And then finally, this one I made as dirt cheap as possible. So the innards here are super, super easy to come by and are not going to run you a lot of money because, after all, not everybody can spend that much money on something that you might never use. So let's go through these kits one by one. I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth. So I like really nice things, and of course I do medicine for a living, and I get a lot of stuff for free, all right? So I am more prone to lay things out with really expensive stuff in there because I can. Now, nice stuff is going to work better for you in most instances. X shears are going to cut better than the cheap shears I have in both of these kits. But if you're just going to use them once, cheap shears are probably going to work just fine, and the added cost of the X shears might not be worth it to you. I'll also say the same with the bag. I like nice bags. These are nice kits by RTS Tactical, but you can absolutely get away with cheaper options if that's what you can afford, so long as you are not using this in really, really harsh environments. When you start getting into, actual professional use, I'm going to use this to save a down officer, I'm going to have it on my SWAT kit every single day, you might want to invest a little bit more heavily because more expensive items, especially when it comes to nylon, are probably going to hold up a little bit better. But this one is meant to be stored in the glove box, a backpack, somewhere where it has a cover over it, and I'm not worried about it getting sandblasted, getting super hot, cold, getting exposed to the elements. And honestly, this is probably what 95% of the people watching this channel should go with. I have a lot of stuff mounted externally. It's really easy to get to, and it leaves a lot more space inside the pack to store some of the other items that might get lost if they were stowed on the outside. So right here, I've got a Sharpie, my X shears. I love X shears. Now, I do think trauma shears are important because you have to be able to access the injuries in order to treat them. We have a cat tourniquet. You can go with any kind of tourniquet. This is just one I had laying around. I've got different tourniquets in these guys just for demonstration. And then this is the scissor pocket, but they're a little bit too big for the X shears, so I just threw some tape, on the outside. You'd be amazed at the versatility of tape. Now, on the back, you can stow the molly straps. If you're never going to molly this to somebody, you could even cut these straps off because you really don't need them if this is sitting in the glove box of your car. So just something to consider there. Now, getting into the pack itself. In here, like I said, this is like everything you could possibly need in an individual first aid kit. This is not a boo-boo kit. This is to save lives. It's not to make your life better if you sprain your ankle or get a small cut on your finger. So right away, we have some expensive things. We have combat gauze or quick lock combat gauze. So this stuff right now is running about $50. It is the gold standard when it comes to wound packing, and that's very important. But like I said, it's expensive for one pack. They last about 5 years. There are some companies out there that will replace them for you if you use them in that time frame. I have 2 ARS needles. Now, we're going to get into the necessity of these in the other kits, but if you really want to splurge and you're trained on how to use them, you can definitely throw them in. Again, we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we come into it. I've got 2 miniature hyphen chest seals. In there, I use these for my chest seals in almost every kit, even things where size is into consideration. I've got an MPA 28 French with lubricant. Make sure you're sizing these for your family. I've got a survival blanket in here. I have some expensive nitrile gloves that come up a little bit farther on your arm. And then last but not least in here, I've got an ETD, and there's still some space to utilize if you wanted to throw some extra stuff in this kit. So this stuff right here is pretty premium. Like, most things in here are going to run you a little bit of money. Now, these ETDs are still like only like $5 or $6, I think. When it comes to these hyphen chest seals, I think you're looking at somewhere around $11. Now, somebody's going to watch this in 5 years and be like, wow, it was so cheap back then. But just know that like this stuff is going to run you a pretty penny with the kit, especially when we factor in, you know, the tourniquet that was on the outside here and the ARS needles and some of the other stuff there. So this is the premium external kit. And like I was saying, this is a great option for somebody that, you know, doesn't care about environmental damage. Now, next up, we have a very similar kit, but I've packed this all into the pack. And this is how I would recommend you carrying your equipment if you are using this on a daily basis. If this is going on a plate carrier that's going to be exposed to the elements every day, if it's going externally on your backpack, or like if it's being like lashed to a railing on your overlanding rig, or, you know, on the front fender of your adventure bike or something like that, you definitely need everything inside it, because the elements, especially when we talk about like salt on the roads in winter environments, it's just going to degrade your stuff so quickly. And it's a lot easier to replace a pack than it is to replace the individual kits or the individual components. So getting into this one, it's the same pack. I managed to get everything on the inside. Now, I did this in a couple different ways. Number one, I chose a different tourniquet. So I went with the soft tourniquet. So this is the SOF tourniquet wide, generation 3, something like that. And I just have that right on the lid. Now, I like it on the lid because I can now take this, if it's on my plate carrier, and I can pull that straight down, and it's going to come out of those bungees really easily. I'm not trying to fiddle with it coming up on either of the wings, but that would work as well. I went with a cheaper pair of trauma shears. Now, X shear is going to kill me because they do have a mini shear. So if you want to buy a premium shear, you can get shears that are this form factor but are a lot nicer. But just tinier shears on the inside, you are sacrificing a little bit with that because you're making smaller cuts. It's going to be just a little bit harder to get through a lot of clothing. Now in here, I've got packing gauze. Now, we were talking about the difference between quick clot and packing gauze, and you could interchange these in this kit if you want to do something a little bit more. I've talked about this ad nauseum in other videos, but while quick clot, while some kind of hemostatic agent in gauze is the gold standard, there's nothing wrong with going with this kind of packing gauze. This is unpregnated gauze. It does not have any hemostatic agent on the inside, and honestly, the difference between survival is pretty negligible between these two. Now, if you're in the military environment, you're gonna have to move somebody quickly. You're not gonna be able to hold pressure for that long. This is the way to go. But most of us, when we have somebody that's bleeding massively, honestly, in the US, contrary to what you might believe, most massive bleeding is not from super violent encounters. Most of it is from accidents, motorcycle wrecks, construction accidents, industrial explosions. That kind of thing is really what we're going to be seeing. So there might not be an active threat. If you can hold pressure for a prolonged amount of time, this gauze is going to do wonders for you. You just have to hold it for more. Now, in this side here, we've got just another space blanket there. I've got my hyphen chest seals. I did throw in a needle decompression needle, and then again have an ETD. Like, NAR has like 8 different kinds of ETDs. I can't even keep them straight on what's what, but it's basically the exact same thing. It's a pressure bandage in there. Now, I like it to keep things like that in this pocket, because usually a pressure bandage is not the most emergent thing you need out of this kit. You're really going to need your tourniquet, and your packing gauze are the patient will be dead in the next 3 minutes scenario. So I want to be able to get those out, and then, you know, if I have to dig a little bit for the pressure gauze, that's totally fine. And for this one, I just have plain pair of rubber gloves I think I got from work at some point and put in my pocket. I threw them in this kit, and it works. So again, protect the contents of your kit. Now, one advantage to keeping everything in here, now obviously, you know, this does, you know, open the door for potential liability. I'm not telling you to do it, but if your outfit allows you to do it, if you're doing this professionally, you know, especially if you're a soldier, I feel like you guys, or military member of any kind, I feel like you guys get a little bit more leeway with some of this stuff. If you're keeping it all in this kit and you're not going to be opening this a ton, it is acceptable in my mind to open some of these packages up and put them in this kit. So it's not opening the kit, now taking this out, now opening this other packaging. And a lot of these have secondary packaging on the inside. And then you open that. So if you are allowed to take stuff out of the package and put it in here, honestly, that's pretty good most of the time. I will say that while a lot of these are packed sterile, there's no such thing as a sterile environment in the pre-hospital environment. So with that, when we're wrapping somebody's arm, they're probably going to get some kind of antibiotic. You know, our gloves aren't sterile, obviously, so we're packing this in. Even if this is sterile, we're making it not sterile by packing it in. So use your discretion, but you know, pulling stuff out of the packaging can be advantageous for time saving. I recently did a training exercise, and we filmed a lot during it with a really, really high fidelity mannequin. It was amazing, but I was actually using the supplies off my kit because I wanted to make the most of it and just practice using things quickly. And what hung me up the most was pulling out my expired combat gauze that I had in there and opening that up and realizing it had a second packaging, and I'm fiddling with that thing, and this dummy's spurting blood. You know, it's very, very lifelike, and I know it's going to die in about 2 minutes if I don't intervene. So trying to get that gauze out was very hard under stress. I'm a broken record at this point, but I do enjoy taking things out of the wrapper if it's allowed. Obviously, it is putting your patients at a higher risk of infection, so only do it, you know, if you're allowed to or if you're willing to take that risk. Now, lastly, this one is set up very cheaply. I wanted to make this so we don't have any, you know, $50 parts on the inside here. We don't have any combat gauze, any really expensive emergency trauma dressings. This is kind of the bare minimum at as cheap as a price point as I can. I'm going to estimate prices here, but I haven't done the exact tally. Just trust me, it's not very much. We oftentimes overcomplicate medical kits on the internet when it comes to IFAKs. You know, we like the sexy things. We like the ARS needles because this looks cool when you have it in your kit. The reality is you're probably never ever going to use this. If you're not trained in it, I don't think you should even carry it, to tell you the truth. And a lot of prominent experts on the web will tell you that, one, tension pneumothoraces don't form super rapidly. It's usually a formation over the course of like half an hour. And with these, you have to be able to recognize a tension pneumothorax, which is difficult, especially if you don't have vitals monitoring equipment. So just know there's a lot of controversies with these. Honestly, if you're trying to save money or space, this would be the first thing to go out of the kit, if you ask me. And there's one other thing that's left out we're going to talk about here in a second. Well, that jumped out at me. So first and foremost, got some mini cheap trauma shears in here. Seriously, these are like $1.25. I think on North American Rescue's website, you can get them pretty much anywhere. They're super cheap. Again, you sacrifice a little bit. These are not really that great for multi-use. You probably get away with using them about 3 times before they start losing their edge. But if you're gonna use this once, probably gonna work just fine. So we got those. I have a cheap pair of gloves I just put up front. Literally costs you nothing. You can probably, next time you go in for your yearly physical, which you should be doing, be healthy, you can probably just take some off the wall. If you don't feel comfortable just taking them, just ask the nurse, and the nurse is gonna be like, okay, sure. And you can take a couple off the wall. So they're really cheap. They're 99 cents free. Now, in here, the one expensive part is the tourniquet. You still really should go with a CCC recommended tourniquet option. Again, I went with a flat folded SOF tourniquet just because it's one of the smallest form factors in here, and I put it in the side just to show there's some versatility there. Now, on this side, we've got a Sharpie. Again, they're free if you just steal one from like the local wood shop or something like that. You can get them, or you can pay a very small amount of money at basically any store. A cheap survival blanket, $1, $2 for this. Now you still, with these cheap ones, you still have to insulate under there. Like I'd take like a coat, put it on, then wrap them in this solar blanket. But very, very cheap item to have. And then we just have 2 items in here. I have my packing gauze, $3 maybe here, and this is by like it's not even like a name brand. This like ER, Ever Ready First Aid. It's compressed gauze. It's going to work fine. You pull this out of the wrapping, you go to work packing that wound, and then lastly, I have an ETD. Now, I put an emergency trauma dressing by North American Rescue. This one's probably $5 to $8, but you can absolutely get like one of the gauze pads from a pharmacy or something, like something you buy at Walgreens, and you can get an ACE wrap, and you can use those in conjunction. And you know what? The secret they don't want you to know about is it's basically the same thing. It's one extra step. It's not quite as premium. It's not going to stick to itself quite as well. But when you're wrapping a wound, that's going to work almost just as well as something like this. So if you need to save a couple bucks, go with an ace wrap, go with a piece of gauze. Honestly, even if you don't have the piece of gauze, it's probably going to be okay. Even if you wad up a little bit of fabric under it to apply a little bit of more directed pressure at that site, it's probably going to work just fine. Now you're going to notice we're missing one thing in this IFAK besides the ARS needle. We're missing chest seals. And again, if I was going to save costs on an IFAK, a chest seal would probably be the second thing to go at this point. Now, chest seals are still standard of care. They're still taught in TCCC as far as I know, TECC as far as I know. We still teach them in PHTLS. We're still expected to do them like on the aircraft. Even when we do like a finger thoracostomy, we're still covering it with a chest seal. But there is some controversy about their use, especially by laypersons or people that are not specializing in the medical space, your line officers, your line soldiers, that kind of thing, because they don't really save you, or at least data is suggesting that, or some experts are starting to come out and say that, where in these cases we have a sucking chest wound, they can still ventilate slightly, and by placing an occlusive dressing on there, I just raise the risk of a tension pneumothorax, which is a life-threatening condition. So a lot of people are moving to just saying, hey, sucking chest wounds, we're going to leave them. Now, once you're a little bit more competent in medical, you're able to recognize a tension pneumothorax, you have multiple means of intervening if that occurs. I still personally believe there is some benefit there, but these people are right. There is risk. And if you don't have, a stethoscope, a way to monitor vital signs other than a heart rate, can't listen to lung sounds, it's going to be harder to identify the start of an obstructive shock state when we get into tension pneumothorax. So again, if you need to save money, throw that chest seal out. And before somebody says like, oh, what about eviscerations? There's nothing to say that a chest seal helps eviscerations. Like, you definitely can, it protects it there, but like, that's not a life-saving intervention in that moment. They're going to get infected, they're going to get antibiotics. So I would leave that out if you're trying to save money. And again, like I said, I used these packs for the demonstration because I had a bunch of them laying around, and I think it's helpful to see them all in the same format. But if you did want to go, like, especially with this one, and you wanted to vacuum seal the kit, or you wanted to throw it in, a Ziploc lunch bag, that's totally fine. It just has a little less mounting options. It looks a little less tactical, and it's going to be a little less convenient when you open it up. But if that's what you can afford, I would much rather you get some ace wrap, spend some money on a tourniquet, and then you get some kind of gauze for packing, even if you have to like cut up strips on a shirt. I'd rather you have that than like splurge on a kit like this and then not have any medical supplies in it. So that's my rant of the day. Let me know what you thought of this video, and I will see you next week.